Welcome everybody, this is Brothermutant here. Today we're going to start a series of videos on Pathfinder Kingmaker. This is for a specific build. You know I love my Eldritch Scion, and I always thought that I glazed over what each bloodline was capable of doing. So I decided I'm going to make a build for every bloodline. Now a small caveat here, I'm only going to do for the dragons one build. I'll talk about the other dragons, how that will impact their spell picks, for instance. Because for those of you that don't know, if you do a dragon bloodline, whatever type of elemental damage you're associated with, those spells do more damage. So a fire dragon type, like a red dragon or a gold dragon, for instance, fire spells would be their bread and butter because they would do extra damage. Doesn't mean it's the only spells they pick, but it would be completely different. For example, say a black dragon that does acid damage. So I'll do one, talk about the others. Same with the elementals. I'll do one, talk about the others. The only difference for the elementals are, well, the spell picks would be basically the same. The feats and skills and such that they unlock as they level up are actually different. So I'll talk about them individually and how you might plan around a build if you want air versus earth versus fire, for instance. But for the other ones, we're going to do one for everything. So actually, let's look first at, doesn't matter because we're just going to pretend to level up here. I'm going to pick the Eldritch Scion just so you can see the different bloodlines. Matter of fact, this is the character we went with, but sure, that's fine. We're going to do Magus, Eldritch Scion, and I'm going to show you the different bloodlines that are available to you. That's fine. Here's our bloodline list. Okay, so again, I'm going to do one for everything here. One of the elementals, one of the dragons. We'll do a celestial one. Arcane, of course, will probably be my last. That's my favorite. Abyssal bloodlines one we're going to do today. I'll do probably the next one after Abyssal will be Undead, because that's another popular one that I think there could be some serious fun to be had behind that. Serpentine bloodline, Infernal bloodline, and of course the Fey bloodline. Now, as you see, everyone gets different spell picks. The dragons all get the same spell picks as they level up, so it doesn't matter which dragon you pick for that. The elementals, the same deal. Doesn't matter which one we pick. They just change into the different type of element. So water gets cold, fire gets fire, earth gets acid, and air gets electric. Other than that, it's more of the same, basically. That's not to say that they are completely wildly different. The real things that change are the stuff that you're seeing down here, like your elemental movement, and the bonuses that you get for the different types of bodies. As you can see, earth doesn't get a whole lot going for it there. But fire, on the other hand, gets a big boost to permanent speed boost. It's like expeditious retreat on all the damn time. Water has these wonderful elemental movement up here, immunity, feats that basically show up as they level up. And again, they are different. What we're actually going to do though today is get out of here, and we are going to actually load, or continue, I should say, with the character that I did level up. I'm going to show you our Abyssal character. Now this is actually a little different than my usual, because this is a strength-based build. Abyssal, for those of you that don't know, get, by the time they level up anyway, a permanent +6 to their strength. Now, of course, I went dragon just to be a douchebag for a spell effect in this last run, so I will actually go take a knee, recoup all my spells, sell the stuff off that we got, so we actually have some decent gear to play around with that as well. But you can get a variety of spells, so don't feel like you're going to be gimped compared to, say, a wizard or another type that has a spell book. We will be fine. We're going to come over here, sell our junk off to this guy, see if there's anything cool that we really want. As you can see, I have been playing the dungeon by myself, the DLC anyway, for this character. I've forced leveled at 20, of course, so it's cheating. But he has a lot of stuff already that's pretty goddamn good. So, the Ring of Natural Born Leader, the Persuasion skill checks, +3 to that, that's extremely beneficial. Don't mind having a DR5 against physical attacks. If they're magic, of course, they penetrate. Got some gear, decent heavy armor, which of course we will use. But you'll see that my strength is actually pretty goddamn high, and it's because we invested in it, as well as we get the free +6 as we level up, which we'll show you here in a mo. Crown of Fear, on the other hand, though, this is actually a nice one. We're going to actually equip that because the persuasion checks to intimidate will be extremely beneficial for this build. So we're even better now. So that's +4 to intimidate checks, competence bonus. This one here is a insight bonus to all persuasion checks, which will include intimidate checks. So we're really going to be rocking that. That's going to be nice. As far as other stuff is concerned, No, we can sell the rest of this junk off, it looks like. This chain shirt, acid resistance 15. It's kind of nice adamantine, so it's a little DR in it. But it's medium, or sorry, light armor as a chain shirt. We can actually wear light, then medium, and then heavy armor, and we will do so as we level this character up naturally. I just want to sell this gear off, buy maybe 1 or 2 magic items that I know we're going to need to demonstrate some stuff, and then we'll get actually into the build proper. So let's sell off. I'm going to keep the helmet though, because I may switch in between it. Offer him all this junk. We can have these. I don't want the coffee beans. I don't need 2 torches. I'm just 1 person. Although it would be epic to see somebody rock an ever-burning torch in each hand as a 2-handed wielder. I bet that would be funny as well. So because this is a strength-based build, we invested a little bit in strength and a little bit in charisma. So not a master of either, per se. You can do one or the other. Probably strength would be the one that most people tend to go to. I just want to see how much money we have and see if there's anything in his gear that would stand out as being, ooh, you must pick this. Can't get those yet. Longsword, no. We have a glaive. We have a specific weapon choice. Matter of fact, while we're in here, let's actually show you why we have a specific weapon choice, okay? So if you go to name A to Z, look under the master weapons. He literally has any and everything that you could possibly imagine, really, for your character. Now notice that you can see that we have all these choices. Well, what can my character use? Well, if you click your character, see the ones that read out? It literally tells you what he can and can't use. So that's helpful. I didn't even know this until the other day. By pure dumb luck, I noticed this. So I pointed out to you guys. But notice we're doing a glaive because I've heard that there's plenty of glaives in the actual game that are pretty decent. The 2 benefits from using a glaive is the following. It's 6-foot long reach is important for us. The other is that it literally is a 2-handed weapon. That's my only real stipulation here. The fact that we find plenty of them in the game is amazing, and therefore I went with it. But there's plenty of other choices, so don't feel like you have to pick a glaive as your weapon focus. Bartiche, for instance, is another fine example. Has the same range, better crit range, doesn't crit as heavy, ×2 versus the ×3 of the glaive, but the damage is still comparable, basically. So that's the thing. And we're not really a crit-heavy build. It's not that we don't like crits, it's just it's not going to be our main focus. Other things that stick out to me as being particularly interesting was the Earthbreaker. If you want bludgeoning damage, a big hogging, piece of tree that you're smacking them in the face with, basically. Basically the same exact thing, just a slight more damage as well compared to the glaive. Otherwise identical in every way. From there, the Falchion was available to us. Remember, we have only simple and martial weapons proficiency. If you wanted to get some of these fancy ones, you're probably going to need to get the exotic stuff. But I didn't. Falchion is a viable option, 2-handed, but it's only 2-foot range. But it's got a really nice crit range, as you see. Other examples are like faux shards if you went again exotic. Really nice crit range on that, and it's got our 6-foot melee 2-handed. This would be the one that you obviously would pick, assuming there's plenty of faux shards in the game. That's not necessarily true. Flails suck, but heavy flail, however, is a 2-hander, and that's a viable option. It's only 2-foot range, though that sucks. Other things that stick out as 2-handers are great axe, great club, great sword, again all in the 2-foot melee range, which doesn't really benefit us too much. But there's probably more than enough great swords in the game that you could probably make a really good living off of beating the shit out of stuff with that. And let's face it, it does look pretty goddamn epic. Glaive is cool, but a great sword is cooler. I mean, I will say that. But other options then were things like, where are you? Long spear and spear. A long spear having that 6-foot range. There's just not many in the game that I found anyway. Quarterstaff is an obvious choice. I would have actually picked the quarterstaff because there's so many in the game if it weren't for one thing. We are going straight Magus, Eldritch Scion to 20. If I were going to do a 1-level dip, which I would highly recommend for anybody that wants it, and not do armor, and I would go Monk, the Skilled Fist Monk, with the Charisma bonus to armor, then I would have done Quarterstaff, because Flurry of Blows with that bastard, that's an extra attack around. And there's plenty of quarterstaffs in the game. It's still 2-handed. It doesn't have the reach, which seems weird because it's just as long as this goddamn glaive. But whatevs, I'm not going to quibble. But there's plenty of quarterstaffs in the game, and those are pretty goddamn badass and kind of almost built for being a Magus, Wizard, Sorcerer type anyway. So you could totally rock a quarterstaff, and I'll probably will in one of my other builds. Other option though was the scythe. I mean, let's face it, I'm an abyssal asshat from hell who wouldn't want to wail on bad guys with a scythe. And since we're going to do cleaving finishes and improve cleaving finishes so that we literally like hit multiple guys in one combat round, let's face it, if you crit on a scythe, that's a ×4 damage. Watching the big circle of their heads lop off is pretty fucking awesome. So this could have been a good one, and you know that there's at least a couple good ones in the game because one of your main characters that you pick up early on, she uses a scythe. Now you'd have to steal it from her or just give her a lesser one, but whatever. The point is it's still a pretty good choice. And again, spear, not short spear. Spear's okay. It just doesn't have the 6-foot range that the long spear does. So that's the thing. Other than that, there wasn't really anything else that really stood out to be super awesome for two-handers. So that's why we went with Glaive, just so we're clear. Now let's go see what kind of gear we can buy from the dragon. See what she has to offer. For some reason, I just naturally assume that the dragon's a female. Don't ask me why. For some reason, I'm just climbing to the fact that it's a woman dragon. So we need supplies, and what we're going to do is we already have the lesser extend and lesser maximize metamagic rods. This is kind of your bread and butter. You will use wands in some of these builds. This build is not one of them, but we have them, so of course I equip them. The reason for the lesser, or for the metamagic rods in general, I should say, is the fact that we did not pick up any metamagic feats, so we really can't automatically have a higher casting of spells. Normally I would do that, especially for an Eldritch Scion. As you know, it's one of my favorites. But since this character has such a limited pick selection for feats, there's only maybe one or possibly two feats that I could lose to give up to get any kind of metamagic fun. So I said, fuck it, we get plenty of these metamagic rods. They're free, but they're cheap and easy enough to buy. So they're plentiful in the game. Get the ones you want, have them slotted, and that's 3 to 6 to eventually up to 15 castings of that have been buffed per day if you use them all efficiently. So we can't really afford. Oh, damn it. How much money do I have? I can't see. Ooh, I hate when it does that. 24,000. Okay, there we go. I can only afford stuff from just below here. I can get the greater reach. The reach ones I never care about. We're not a race spell slinger, so if you were, this would be different. But that's not my thing. The extend, on the other hand, are useful. Empower and maximize are definitely useful. Other than that, the quicken have some utility, I suppose. They're so goddamn pricey. I can't see needing them per se. But if you do get ambushed, being able to quicken something in a heartbeat for some buffs is not exactly the worst thing ever. So that's why I mentioned it. But remember, we do have the ability to cast spells and attack in the same combat round. So in the grand scheme of things, I can't say as I care about the quickens either. But Empower are good. Maximize are good. Which aren't here. Right here. Maximize are good. And of course, Extender are amazing. And we are a buffer, so, Extender are really good, matter of fact. I'm not going to get the greater one, not because of any particular reason. I do not have the extend one. I have the lesser. So how these work is there's 3 categories. So there's the lesser version, there's the regular version, and then there's the greater version. The way they work is basically this. The lesser versions only work on spells level 1 to 3. The regular versions, like this one here, work for spells 1 through 6, which is as high as your spells go as a Magus. So that's all you really need. However, that doesn't mean I can't get the greater version, because they work 1 through 9. Yes, I don't have 7, 8, or 9 spells, but so what? It still works on level 1 through 6 still. So it's like having another extend metamagic rod, per se. I don't know that you can slot more than one of these at any given caster. I had never actually thought of that. But since they only really offer one, I only buy one at a time. But my character has currently the lesser extend and the lesser maximize. I'm going to grab the maximize one, so I'm going to save up my money. I want to see what level 4, 5, and 6 spells can do when they've been maximized. By the way, for those of you that are interested, from what I hear, I don't know, I haven't really done the math on this, but from what I hear, doing Empower is almost always beneficial in comparison to Maximize. Almost always. And let me give you a why that really is the case. So maximize, for those of you that don't know, let's just take a spell. We'll do Shocking Grass. It's a staple. 5d6 damage at the highest casting that we can cast it at. So literally, if you maximize it, it will guarantee 30 damage, not counting resistances and saving throws and blah, blah, blah. But if it hits and they're susceptible, it will do 30 damage guaranteed. That's what maximize does. Empowered, on the other hand, takes the 5d6 roll, whatever you rolled, could be 5, it could be 30, or somewhere in between. And then it multiplies it by 1.5. So it's 50% stronger. That means a 5 turns into a 7.5, probably rounds down to a 7, so that's lame. But when it hits that 30, and that's 1.5 of that, now 30 becomes 45. So from what I hear, the math works out to being that Empower, on average, does more damage than the Maximize. Now again, grain of salt on that, don't know that for a fact, but that's what I've heard. Other reasons for me wanting Maximize is to show you some showcased abilities. Again, a fine example is Vampire Touch. Maximum damage of it would be 60. If it crits, it's 120. That's baller. Well, that's extra HP to you as well. While Empowered could get me more, it could also get me much, much less. So it's one of those where I'd rather know it's maximized, because 60 is really good for that reason, because you're getting 2 uses out of it. Damage and some extra health, as we'll see. So we can do all these right now maximized, because I have a lesser maximized Metamagic Rod. These are the ones that I can't do anything with right now as far as maximize or extend or empower, because I don't have the rods for them and I don't have any feats for them. Well, that's actually not true. I can maximize and I can extend these, because I have these extended magic and a maximized magic. Now normally I'd only get the extended one. The maximized one was so I could do some stuff and show you to you, so at the very least I can do that. So if we go to our book again, I can do this for any spell that I have that can be extended. I can extend it for any spell only 3 times a day. Same with the maximize. Any spell that I have, I can cast it and I can maximize it, assuming maximize would work, and I can do that only 3 times a day. So I can do a maximized Hellfire Ray. I can do a maximized Sirocco. I can do a maximized Umbral Strike. Greater Heroism doesn't have any minimum maximum category, so there is no reason to maximize it. It's flat out just as good as it always is. I can extend it though, double the duration from 20 minutes to 40 minutes. So that's the thing. For Fire Snake, I can maximize that for some serious damage. For Acidic Spray, I can maximize that for some really nice damage, because it not only does damage once, but then it ticks again if they fail their save. So really, really nice stuff that I can do with some maximize here. Of course, Control Fireball, Dragon's Breath will be amazing. Animate Dead, this is where it gets really cool. So see how there's a roll for how many undead you summon? I could actually have the maximum guaranteed by using Maximize on this spell. So instead of having 1d4 plus 2, and actually I do have a buff besides that to get it to plus 3, it'd be a chance of 4 to 7 normally. Maximize, it's guaranteed 7, so I should always summon 7. And that'd be pretty goddamn cool. So I can do stuff like that. Let's actually look though at our spell picks and in the order that I did pick them, and kind of explain why. Because remember, you are a sorcerer type, and as such you have limited castings of what you pick per day. Why did I pick the ones that we did pick? So first, Shocking Grasp and Shield were the first 2. That's obvious. Shocking Grasp, you can channel it through your weapon. Even though it's 2-handed, we can still do that. We just don't benefit from it as much as we would if it was a 1-handed weapon. More on that later. Shield spell, obvious. We don't get to carry a shield, period, and we're 2-handing stuff, so having the extra shield armor comes in super, super handy. So, duh. Plus, immunity and Magic Missile. Why not? Magic Missile, on that same note, auto hit move. Unless they have shield on them or some kind of spell resistance, it's going to do damage, or, kind of, unless they're immune to Magic Missile as well. Cause Fear we get for free. Grease Spell has a couple utilities. One, for obvious, from low to high level, it's useful. There's never a bad guy that you can't slippy slide sometimes, so Grease is extremely useful for that. You can slip and slide on it too. However, we have Wings once we get to a certain level, and Wings seem to make us immune to Grease. That's freaking awesome. I can cast that at my feet now and watch the fighters come up to me with a crappy ass reflex saves and watch them slip and slide while I'm just critting the shit out of their faces. So, some use there. Expeditious Retreat, I can switch the order around on these, by the way. Cause Fear is free, so you don't get to do that. But Expeditious Retreat, it could be picked up earlier, because there's good kiting potential when you have Expeditious Retreat. You're faster than almost everything on the map except for some wolves. And then you can literally run away, hit one, run away, hit another one, get them down to a more manageable number, right? But that's also useful when you're soloing. And while this is not a solo build, again, just to reiterate this, it's not a solo build because you do have to rely on armor, and therefore your touch attack armor class sucks ass. You can solo quite a bit of the game with this character, so do so. Enjoy those free levels that you get, and be uber compared to the rest of your companions. When you know that you're coming into those patches where touch armor class is really going to be your bread and butter, bring the team. Because either A, they'll buff you, B, they'll be the fodder that take the hits, and then you'll go in and slaughter everything. So that's perfectly valid. But Expeditious Retreat, when you're going solo, comes in handy because the maps are big, and if you really have to go from one side to the other and you have to just slog it the slow way, it's really going to annoy you. So this comes in super handy. Last pick was just kind of a, whatever kind of pick. We don't get much in the way of choices. So Ray of Enfeeblement was still a good choice for a couple of reasons. One, it's a Ray spell. We're not really great at those, but it's a touch attack. So with a high enough base attack bonus, we still have a pretty good chance of landing that shit. The other is even though it's a save for it, a fortitude save, notice it's not a save or suck. It is a save or half strength spell, which means that whatever we roll, minimum is a 6, maximum is an 11. Again, assuming we don't do it like empowered, then they take that number, you cut it in half if they make their save. And again, they probably will. It's a fortitude save, where chances are we're beaming the fighter types with this to lower their strength for a reason. But flatten their to the worst case scenario where we roll a 6 is the worst possible case here. A 1 plus 5. So a 6. They make their save, their strength goes down by 3. That's still guaranteed to be less chance for them to hit me, assuming they're strength based, and then less damage they do when they do hit me. So that's still something. So it's not a horrible spell, it's just not the best. And it is only level 1, so really what the hell were you expecting? Level 2 now. Frigid Touch and Mirror Image. I'm going to grab almost every one of the melee touch attacks. I didn't take the Corrosive Touch one because it sucks, but I'll take the other 3. So we're going to have this, Frigid Touch, Shocking Grasp we already grabbed, and we will of course get Vampiric Touch as well. But Frigid Touch is decent, if for no other reason that it is just as good as it is when it comes out of the box as it is when it's level 20. There is that stagger effect, which comes in handy, and if it's a critical hit, they get staggered for even longer. No saving throw. You gotta love a no saving throw spell. Yes, there's spell resistance still a thing, and there could be immune to the cold effects, but that staggered effect should really hammer home unless the spell resistance isn't in effect, or we miss, obviously, because it is a touch attack. Mirror Image for some good armor protection, so to speak. Less likely that they hit you. That's all good. Same with Blur, as you'll see later. We get Bull Strength for free, and while I would normally not pick it, since it's such a limited pick and we will rapidly out-level the increase, I will happily take it for free. So here you go. Here's some strength that we started at 14. Now we can buff ourselves to 18 and really start hitting stuff hard. So that's going to be nice. Scorching Ray. Even though we're not the best at Ray spells, it's too hard to pass up something that hits 3 damn times in a row in someone's face. So kind of gotta love this one. Could have just easily gone the Acid Arrow route, but of the spells at level 2, this was the one that really stood out to me as going, yeah, I really kind of want it. Web Spell, again, crowd control, bigger than Grease Spell. Notice that it's not teammate friendly, of course, too, just like Grease, but also, weirdly, we are still immune to this one. And again, I'm assuming it's because of our wings. Ground-based effects seem to be a thing that the wings protect you from, and that's kind of hit or miss as to what that means. But weirdly, the Grease Spell we're immune to, we can dance on that all day long. There's never a reflex check. This one, you get into a web spell, and it will do the reflex check. But even if we fail it, it does not seem to impact us. It's just super weird. I'll show you this when we actually get into the game itself. But that's odd, and it's therefore useful to me. So I will take this and use that to lock down big groups of dudes, walk over to just small little packs of them, and just slaughter them individually, because I'm immune to this shit. Effortless Armor was kind of I gotta pick something. I picked it though for a reason. We are going to be wearing armor, and again, once we get to heavy armor, we'll be wearing heavy armor almost exclusively. Best armor makes the most sense for us, but heavy armor, just like medium armor and of course light armor to a lesser extent, inflicts penalties to your physical skill checks. Those are only 4. Athletics is 1, which is one of our bread and butters for this build. Then the other 3 are for dex based, and that's your trickery, your stealth, and your mobility, and we're not getting any of those really. So I don't particularly care about them being penalized, but athletics check, we're strength based, and athletics is a strength based skill, and we have class skill in it thanks to being Abyssal. So I figured let's put at least some points in athletics. We got it up to like a plus 15, so having it go from 15 to 10 kind of sucks. This spell would make that go away. Also, if the armor makes a speed reduction on you because it's so damn big and heavy. This takes away that penalty as well. So again, not something I use every day, but when I really need it, it's there. Since Vitals is a free spell pick, which means we don't have access to it until level 19. Once you get to level 19, you have 6 free spells that you can pick that are level 1 through 6. You don't have to pick any from any particular level. You can mix and match to your heart's content, which is awesome. This is one that I picked from level 2. There's plenty at level 1, 2, and on up that are decent. I'll go over that in a tight little list for you at the end of this. But this is the one I landed on, because Sense Vitals is just too good to pass up. Free sneak attack damage, man, who doesn't love that? And by the time we get it, we're getting the 5d6 of sneak attack damage per hit. And we have a couple, at least, different ways to get sneak attack damage, even solo, which you're going to love. So, yes, please. Level 3, Haste and Vampiric Touch for obvious reasons. I could have gone Displacement and Vampiric Touch for the first 2 picks, too. But I figured, what the hell, let's go with Haste. Extra attack around, who doesn't love that? More dodge as well. More attack bonus, all kinds of good shit in here. So, Haste is definitely useful. And they both last the same duration, so it doesn't matter. This buffs me and my team. That's the only real reason I went with Haste first. Vampiric Touch, though, for obvious reasons. Who doesn't love extra hit points? And again, another melee touch attack you can channel through your 2-handed weapon. Rage we get for free. I never use it, so I'm not even going to talk about it. Stinking Cloud. Now we get into some weird shit. So now we have wings much later in the game. Of course, like level 15 or some such. That allows us to avoid things like the web and the grease and all the other shit we're going to talk about later. As we level up at level 3 and level 9, we get a +2 to our fortitude for poison saves. Stinking Cloud is a poison. So, at level 3, not level 3 casting, at a level 3 character, we already have a +2 to resisting this effect. So by this time, we actually have a pretty good chance. Let's see, it's 1, 4, level 3 would be at level 7, so we're level 7, probably almost level 9 by the time we actually pick this up anyway. At level 9, we would have a +4 to resisting effects like this, which is a poison effect. So we could stand in the cloud, debuff the bad guys, make them nauseous and hate our guts, and we're basically not necessarily immune to it, but really resistant to it. Once we get to level 20, we actually become immune to poison and therefore immune to this effect. It still rolls the fortitude save, by the way. It's really annoying. It says, oh, you made the save. Who cares? I'm immune to it. Oh, you failed to save, but it didn't have any effect. Of course, because I'm immune to it. So again, it doesn't much matter. But you'll see we use this trick a couple different times in this build. Displacement, of course, a 50% chance to miss me. Yes, please. Doesn't last very long, hence the extended magic effect that we can literally buff it out of pocket just 3 times a day. Poof, here you go. Now it lasts, instead of 2 minutes at level 20, it's 4 minutes at level 20. That's pretty good. Slow, just because I had to pick something else. You'll notice I am missing Fireball from level 3. That is intentional. We're going to get Controlled Fireball at level 4, and I already knew that. So I decided that's why we grabbed Lightning Bolt, just to kind of mix it up a little bit. But that's still pretty cool. And remember, we are team friendly, so slow spells team friendly. And while I don't necessarily would use that over haste, because I'd rather buff me and my team than debuff the bad guys for just one battle. This may last us more than one battle. So that's the reasoning behind that. But definitely don't mind slow, because it's definitely helpful. Right? From here, level 4, notice the first 2 I always seem to pick seem to be Dimension Door, because yes please, and Dragon's Breath, because again, 4 different elemental types of damage into one little power. Gotta love that. And it's really good damage at 12d6 max. Different effects too, it's like cones versus beams, so it's up to you how you really pick and choose. But Dimension Door to get in and out of places, and sometimes that can be used for exploits, and we'll not be telling you what those exploits are, but there's some really good ones in there, and I definitely will shamefully pilfer some really good loot that way. And sometimes even it's not even an exploit in that there's sometimes that there's a piece of treasure down there, I don't know how to get down there yet, or I haven't found the way down to that spot yet, but I can see the treasure that's right there and it's just taunting me. I have 2 Dimension Doors. Hold still, guys, I'll be right back. Teleport down with the group. Someone picks the lock, we get our treasure, we teleport back a group to the spot we were just at, and we're back to rolling again. So that's not cheating. That's what Dimension Door is for. Another use for Dimension Door, by the way, is you'll have wizards and other casters that just annoy the shit out of you, that stand behind everything. Archers and such too. Dimension Door to their son of a bitchin' face and start wailing out. And there you go. Good skills. Stone Skin you get for free, and even if you didn't, I would have picked it up anyway, but it's definitely worth getting. We're not going to use it because we're not going to invest in the diamond dust, but we can. It's cheap enough, and the dragon sells it. But Stone Skin's useful, and you can buff it on just about anything. You, your pets, your friends. So it's really a decent spell. Also for free, yes please. Control Fireball, again, minimum damage to you and your team if you get caught in it by mistake. That's cool, because again, we're doing 10d6 damage. That means the minimum should be like 10. So that's something. So this is nice. And then, you know, again, it's still Fireball. Higher level Fireball spells too, so the DC's level 4, not level 3. Ice Storm. This is going to be a series of spells that we're going to have that difficult terrain that we slap down. Much like Web and much like Grease, we're immune to it, thanks to our wings. Once we get to the wings, of course. You're not immune to the damage, so cold damage and bludgeoning damage. That's 2 types of damage. Perception, whatever penalty, that's only if you're sneaking, which we don't do. But the point is it's still helpful because it slaps down that difficult terrain, and that difficult terrain would slow the bad guys down, presumably, and allow us to skitter right across it because of our wings that were flying over the damn thing. So that's nice. Shout, I figured, well, if you're going to get all the elemental damage except for Sonic, then you should probably get the one that does Sonic damage too. It's not as good, nowhere near the damage, still cone, which is nice, and it does do that chance of stun, you know, unless they make the save, of course. But that's helpful, at least. It's just not teammate friendly either, but neither is this. Animate Dead. Now, this was one of our free picks, so it was Obsidian Flow. And this was, again, level 19, so much later in the game. You, as a Abyssal Bloodline, have 2 free, I don't want to call them feats per se, but basically effects that kick in. One at level 1 and one at level, like, 15 or 17 or some shit. So, in a nutshell, what they do is this. The first one you get is any summons that you have, they get an inherent DR. 1 minimum, 1/good, by the way, so any good weapon can penetrate it. So they get a 1 minimum. They literally get it up to, I think your DR is equal to your Eldritch Scion level divided by 2. So at level 20, which we are, they would get a 10. So 20 divided by 2. This built into them, which is nice, because if they didn't have any protection, they're going to get slaughtered. Now they got at least a little bit of chance of resisting some shit. And let's face it, who really has a good weapon that you're fighting in this game swinging at you? It's unlikely. They're probably fighting, well, no, I take that back. Yeah, you're probably good, and they would have it. You know, scratch that, reverse it. Point is, having a bunch of little animated dead guys kind of fits with my, you know, I'm from a hell asshat person, so it makes sense to me. Obsidian Flow is another one that we can cast on the ground, AoE effect. Don't stand in it initially, you don't get your toes in it, because at the very first casting, it does fire damage. Nice fire damage, no less. But after that, it puts that little pool on the ground, and it slows the targets around, so it's basically like difficult terrain. May not be called that, but it's basically the same principle, and our wings will protect us from that part. So after you cast it, they do the initial fire damage, then feel free to run all over that shit, because it'll slow them down, and you won't be impeded by it at all. Greater invisibility, this was our last just general pick, and I'm like, yeah, I can't really think of anything else I wanted. And it gives us a chance to do some sneak attack damage if we are invisible, so okay, cool. It doesn't last long, but we're not going to rely on it per se. Level 5, now we get into some good damaging type spells. First 2 was Cloud Kill and Elemental Body 2 for a couple different reasons. One, Cloud Kill, it's a poison, and again, easy to cheese some serious old gratin moves here to take out some bosses. I've done it before, know that there's that giant ass troll up in the fucking corner, and I'll literally cast it here and just let it, because it drifts away from you the way you're facing, so it will just drift towards the troll. And if he can't see you, he just stands there like a dumbass and goes, what the hell, my constitution's going down, and finally he just crumples, which is fucking awesome. Or you can just cast it at your feet, and it will drift away from you again. You have to constantly kind of turn around or run around in a circle, but by and large, you can really reposition yourself with your resistance and eventually immunity to poison. You can't be affected by this, and they're constantly taking con damage, and it gets worse from there, because every time they take that con damage, it just spirals, right? It just continues to go down, because it's fortitude save. So their con's high, they make their check, they miss their check, ah shit, their con went down. Now they're more likely to miss it again, and then eventually they just fucking die. Just awesome. Real fun to do. And again, much needed trick in my opinion. Elemental Body 2 is for a couple of reasons. One, it never hurts to have the ability to turn into another form. Yes, you can't cast spells in this form, but a lot of our feats and tricks will still be valid, and we can pre-buff up first, then change. That's also valid. Notice that each form will have an inherent buff to it as far as a stat. Like strength comes from the elemental earth one. We'll get dexterity if you're air or fire. For water, for whatever reason, you get con, extra constitution. So whatever. But the point is, all of them are resistant at least to a specific elemental damage. Air from electric, fire from fire, earth from acid, and water from cold. And that's kind of cool. Other than that, you just look cool, and it's kind of fun to run around. The real reason for picking it, though, is I have heard later in the game, I don't know where it's at, I haven't seen it yet. Maybe I did and I just missed it. But there's an attack that some bad guys will do to you, where if you're a mortal being, a human, a tiefling, whatever, they just own your ass. But if you're an elemental body form, you're not immortal, so it doesn't impact you. You're basically immune to that effect, whatever that effect is. I don't know what it is, but I heard roughly that someone says, "Oh no, you want that? At least one of them." So their choices are: you get access to 1, 2, or 3. We don't get access to 4, so we don't get high enough. 1, 2, or 3 you could pick. I picked 2. 1, you're teeny tiny and you kind of suck. 2's decent. I've tested it out before and I like all of them, but I like Earth more than I like the other 3. But there's reasons for all 4. And then the level 3 version is you're even better, but you're so much bigger it's easier for it to get hit, and it just seemed kind of be fiddly, and I'm just saying, nah. So 2 is about right where I need to be, right at the normal human size, and plus you just look cool. So again, coolness factor. You get dismissal for free, which is basically the I don't want you in my dimension anymore, fuck off spell. Obviously only works on those that are summoned, I believe, to you. So you literally, they summon the demon horde on your ass, and you just point at one of those demons and say, nope, sorry, go back home. Poof, and they disappear. Now there is a will check, of course, but again, pretty good chance that it will land and the bastard just poof, it's gone. Instant, basically kill, so to speak. He's just not there anymore. He ain't coming back. Acidic spray, cone of cold, fire snake, no in particular order other than acidic spray does technically more damage because it hits for the same amount of damage that these guys will do, and then there's a chance that it will tick at least one more round after, so doing another little small spike of acid damage, so it's slightly better than these two in that regard. Fire snake is team friendly, acidic spray is not, neither is cone of cold. But I did cone of cold before fire snake because at this point we really didn't have a whole lot of cold spells per se. We already had like fireballs and shit, so figured, we'll wait. Icy Prison was the free pick at level 19 because you don't have access to it until now. And there's a lot of really good stuff, again we'll go over that here in a minute. But Icy Prison is a nice single target lockdown where it will do cold damage equal to your caster level, which means 20 right now. So 20 points of cold damage every round that they're basically held by this. And it lasts for a good long while. If they make their save, of course they can break out of it. But if they don't, damage, damage, damage. It's just always there. It's super fun. And notice, by the way, that's a reflex save, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, reflex partial. So it's not like it's a will save against like a wizard, like a hold person type spell. So you can use this against almost anybody except for, obviously the rogue types. Level 6. You gotta turn into a dragon, bro. I mean, it's offered to you, so you have the potential. Let's face it, who doesn't want to be an abyssal demon dragon from hell? That's fun. And you can still cast spells while in dragon form. Definitely something worth doing. Sirocco, extremely amazing spell. I love this one. This is another one you cast at your feet. Don't stand in it, but it's AoE. Nice fire damage. It hits them, and then they get fatigued. It hits them again because it lasts for multiple rounds. And it could exhaust them, which is friggin' sweet. Now, if you get stuff that makes you immune to exhaustion and fatigue, well, that's awesome. Then you can probably stand in it and suffer little consequences. Just make sure you're fire protected, which you can do. It'll still knock your ass down, assuming that that's something you're susceptible to. But doesn't mean it will. So you can almost stand in the shit at that point and let the bad guys kind of come to you and watch them just constantly take damage and fall down and get weaker and weaker while you just slaughter the shit out of them. So Sirocco's nice. And you can stack it on itself, so multiple castings in the same spot. It does work. Transformation we get for free. Would have picked it even if we didn't, but this one's an amazing spell. Don't have to get into it because we talked about it before, but we will show you how it's used. Again, you can't cast spells once you've activated it though. Umbral Strike, there's plenty of great stuff here at level 6, so I just started picking with weird shit. Umbral Strike is a nice one because it's a ray spell, but it's also 2 different types of damage. It's cold and negative energy damage, and it has a chance to blind them if they don't make the save. So that's kind of cool. So I dug that, and the medium range is not bad either. So it's a really nice spell. It looks cool too. Acid Fog is kind of trippy. This one, when you have the ability to make yourself resistant to at least 12 points of acid, maximize this fucker, cast it at your feet, and everyone that's in battle with you will be taking acid damage every round. And they take a penalty, so will you, against melee attacks. So your AB goes down 2, and your damage goes down by 2, but we can afford it. Anyone shooting into the cloud has a penalty to hitting you, therefore you have an armor bonus because you're in the cloud from ranged attacks outside of it. So that's fucking awesome. So just stand in the cloud and just wipe off the melee guys, and then when they're all done, just find those ranged targets and just run over to them and sort of beat them to death. So very fun tactic. And you will, at level 20, finally get DR 10 against acid, fire, and cold, and that helps. So you don't have to pre-buff up to save yourself. But as a tiefling, we get resist energy spell once a day, and we can cast it on ourselves if we want. And that's fire, cold, electric, acid, or sonic. So you just choose what you want. I obviously would cast acid, and then cast this at my feet, and I'll be immune to it. So that's pretty fucking awesome. Greater Heroism is a free pick, so was Elemental Assessor. There's plenty of good stuff to pick from. Again, we'll go over that here in just a moment. But Greater Heroism, I just can't pass it up. If I didn't get this, I would have gotten Heroism, which is a level 3 spell. Lasts for 10 minutes per level, but it's half the buff, and you don't get the extra HP. This one, though, at this level, 19 and 20, lasts plenty long enough. You don't even have to extend it, but I do. But it's amazing buff. Plus 4 to all that shit is, attack rolls, saves, skill checks, and immune to fear, and extra HP. Yes, please. All that's just gravy on top. Elemental Assessor. This is a really weird race spell where you hit them with it, and it does 2 to 12 points of damage of 4 different elemental types of acid, fire, cold, and electric. And then whichever does the most damage, it does subsequent attack, which you don't have to roll, it just does it, or it does 46 of damage of that element, let's say acid, for 1 to 4 rounds. Now if you maximize this, in my head anyway, that means I'm doing 12 damage for acid, 12 of fire, 12 of cold, 12 of electric, and then I'm assuming it will just randomly pick one of those 4 to do damage on that next 4 rounds, where it does 24 points of damage each round on it. That's pretty fucking badass for a single spell. Hellfire Ray, of course, 15d6 damage, and you get 3 beams. Yeah, and it's one of those where even if they are fire resistant, it does not only fire damage, but the other type, the unholy damage. So it's more likely to impact those fire resistant jackasses. I'm cool with that. And again, it's a race spell, looks pretty cool. Now let's actually talk about the spells that we are missing, that I can talk about, that are like honorable mentions that I didn't pick at level 19, those 6 free spells that we got. At level 1, the only thing that stood out was Touch of Gracelessness. You didn't have access to it until level 19. It's a melee touch attack, which is not bad because, again, you have high strength and that's what you excel at. But it's one of those where it's kind of like the Ray of Enfeeblement you see there. Instead of a beam, it's a touch attack, though, a melee touch attack. And it does the same thing but to dexterity. And it saves in the same way. So a fortitude save, you cut it in half. So, minimum, they're going to be taking 3 points of dexterity damage, assuming I hit them, of course. They'll take 3 points of dexterity damage. So that, at the very least, if it's a dex-based character, I've screwed them out of some armor. Probably a chance to hit me a little bit because they're probably doing a weapon finesse. So that's at least helpful to me, but it's not amazing. But again, for a level 1 spell, what did you expect? I didn't pick it as you see. Level 2, get some nice stuff in it. For example, we get things like Bone Shaker, an automatic hit spell. Does a decent damage, scales well all the way up to 20. Again, automatic hit. If they make their save, the damage is cut in half, but you can't kind of pass on something like Bone Shaker. I did, but that's because there's better choices. Burning Arc also opens up basically a safe version of Fireball spell, so to speak, at level 2 even. Yeah, it's a pretty good spell. Notice that we have Sense Vitals, which we did pick, and honorable mention to Pernicious Poison, and that's just because by itself it does nothing. It literally just lowers your fortitude saves against poison. But since we do so many poison attacks, it's entirely possible that you might want to do that. So you debuff the bad guy and then you poison them with your other spell. So it's a little more setup than I'm used to, but it's only 2 spells really, so it's not that bad. Level 3 now, we get some trippy stuff that, we didn't take anything here, but we could. There's things like Battering Blast. That's basically a race spell that you can make 3 to 4 at level 19 and 20. 3 to 4 balls of energy, kind of like Magic Missile, but it's a to-hit check for them. And every time it hits, it does really good damage. And then every time it hits, it does a Bull Rush attempt based on your Charisma modifier, pushing shit back, which is kind of freaking cool. There's also Heroism in here. Again, this is the +2 buff instead of the +4 that we saw with Greater Heroism, but does last for 10 minutes per caster level, so it's kind of nice. And it's only a level 3 spell, which you have more uses per day of. So, again, if you didn't want to waste your level 6 slots, I could at least see picking up Heroism here for that reason. There's also just the last honorable mention here. For all levels 1 through 6, we unlock the Summon Monster spell, 1 through 6, obviously, as appropriate. This is the first one to mention simply because it gives you all 3 chances of summoning the other stuff. So if you don't know, when you summon monsters in this game, it gives you a choice. except for level 1 spell. 2 and up, it gives you a choice. And the choice is either one strong monster-ish for the level that's available, a slightly weaker monster, but 1 to 3 of them, an even weaker monster still after that, and it's like 1d4 plus 1 of them. Remember, we have the ability to increase the number of monsters that we summon by 1, only if there's a chance to summon more than 1. So in this instance, for Summon Monster 3, when we summon that, I think it's the Monitor Lizard is the one you can only summon 1 of at level 3. If I pick that, I would only get 1, guaranteed, only the 1. If I pick the other one, which is like the wolves or the dogs or whatever, I will get 1 to 3 of them. So 1 minimum, 3 maximum. But then I also get another 1 on top of that. So then I'm summoning at least 2, maximum of 4. For the weakest one, that's the 1d4 plus 1, I actually turn it into 1d4 plus 2. So a minimum of 3 for me, maximum of 6. You see what I'm saying? So this is why I mention it. I would not pick it, but if you want to be a pet master, that's a thing. You could totally do that. I would not pick the level 1 or 2 spells because they're kind of crap, though, at this point. Even 3 is not great. 4, 5, or 6 is probably where I'd focus my attention. Also, by the way, there are summon elemental spells, but those ones only always summon 1. So we'll never summon 2. Just 1. Just so we're clear on that. That's why I actually didn't even mention it to you. Level 4 spells, though, that are nice. And you saw we took Animate Dead and Obsidian Flow. And again, Animate Dead is one of those summon types. So you see how I get 1d4 plus 2? I actually get 1d4 plus 3 again. So I get a minimum of 4, maximum of 7 out at a time. That's pretty badass. Other stuff, though, that besides the 2 that we picked here, were Bone Shatter, the Big Brother version of Bone Shaker. And it has a nice effect. Not only does it scale well, but it has a nice effect in that if they fail their save, they're exhausted. And it's an auto-hit move. And if they make their save, they're at least fatigued. So unless they're immune to fatigue or exhaustion, you at least have an effect on them. And even fatigue, by the way, remember, is a -2 to strength and a -2 to dex. So you at least debuff the guy, all while doing at least a decent amount of steady damage to the son of a bitch, too. From there, Crushing Despair makes an honorable mention, in my opinion. It's a massive cone debuff. I don't think it's teammate friendly, I can't remember. But I don't think it is. But it's one of those where it's like a -2 to damage everything. -2 to attack, damage, skill checks, etc. and so forth. It's a good debuffing spell. And it's good, especially if you want to ensure that your DC checks are good because their saves fail. So we're lowering their chance to make their save. So that's okay. Again, a little more setup than I'm used to, but I can see the use of it. Other ones in this one, though, include things like Greater False Life, And Greater False Life is a really nice one. That's 2d10 of extra HP, so random roll, and then another HP based on your caster level. So at level 20, it'd be 2d10 plus 20. So it could be as low as 22, it'd be as high as 40 extra HP added to you. And those do stack, by the way, with Vampiric Touch. So we can actually have, at max, a 40 and a 60. We could actually have another 100 HP added to your character for a decent amount of time. That's nothing to sneeze at. Other than that, though, another good one in this category was Innervation. I love it, but I can't seem to pick it. This is the one that doesn't do damage. It does negative levels, 1 to 4. Ray spell, I believe. Definitely looks like a ray spell, at least. And then, if it hits, you'd be surprised how many bad guys in here actually don't have very many levels. They have a lot of HP and they hit fucking like a brick shithouse, but they're like level 5 characters. So you hit them with 2 maximized versions of the Innervation. If you were lucky enough to hit them both times, they're basically dead. That's freaking awesome. That's 2 spells and poof, he's gone. And I can do that for a lot of different guys that I just don't like. So that's kind of fun. You'd be surprised at how those negative levels stack up. From there, again, Obsidian Flow we did pick. Summon Monster 4, again, worth mentioning. A level 5, this is where we're getting to some really trippy shit. So level 5 had a shit ton of damage you saw that we did pick from our normal picks. Acid Spray, Fire Snake, Cone of Cold. Even got Cloud Kill in there, right? Dismissal was free, so that's kind of a freak of the group. But Icy Prison was one that I did pick with the free picks. Other stuff that was available, and it's just too hard to pick. That's why I just had to pick something. Constricting Coils is a spell in here that's offered just like Hold Monster is. The exact same spell as Hold Monster, exact same everything. The type that it does, the type of save that it does, the duration that it does, the fact that it holds Monster in place, both of them do this. But Constricting Coils does damage over time. Why would you not pick that one over Hold Monster? So if you're going to pick one of those, pick Constricting Coils. From there, Dominate Person was in this list, just as an honorable mention. Hold Monster 2. Echolocation's not an unbad buff. There is this one spell called Mind Fog in there that does a massive cloud debuff for will saves, which could come in super, like the -10, guys. It's not like a couple of points. It's a huge debuff to will saves. But sadly, you're not immune to it. I thought it was a poison cloud, and yeah, I stood in it, and I got debuffed. So you're not immune. So be aware of that. It is a will save to resistance effects, of course, too. So once you fail that save, you're pretty much screwed. Shadow Evocation is also available at level 5, and then normally I pick this one because it's so utility for a spontaneous caster like this. You get Fireball, Lightning Bolt, Shout, Ice Storm, and Volcanic Storm all in the same power. You just choose which of the 5 you're casting at level 5, no less, which is freaking higher DC check. But I actually have, with the exception of Volcanic Storm, all those spells, so it's kind of like I really can't justify picking it up now. But I could see someone saying, oh, I always love Shadow Evocation, and of course Greater Shadow Evocation, which we don't have access to. But you see why I didn't pick it then. Other than that, again, honorable mention to Summon Monster 5, and again, I would pick it if I wanted to be some kind of monster hunter. I could totally have that as a level 5 pick and not feel bad about it. Level 6, we get other stuff that's just amazeballs in here. So some of the fancier ones, you notice we grabbed Elemental Assessor and we already got our Greater Heroism. Those are the 2 that we did pick. And those are great in and of themselves. But other good choices are things like Cold Ice Strike. Cold Ice Strike is the only power that a wizard has, a spell that a wizard or sorcerer or magus in this case has, that has a cast time of swift action. So if you get jumped out of the bushes by somebody and you're like, oh shit, you don't even need Quicken. You just, I want to hit you with ice. I just, oh, and raise your hand and poof, it fires off. It's freaking amazing. So it does really good damage in a straight beam. So it's really a nice spell. So that's one's good. Serenity is interesting. This is an AoE teammate friendly one where anybody that fails their, I want to say, will save, they attack you, they take damage. They attack your friends, they'll take damage. If they attack your pets or your friends' pets, they'll take damage. Anytime they attack, basically, they're also taking damage from the anguish they feel, which is super funny and a total demonic thing to do to somebody. So I could totally see doing Serenity. Also, another classic is Eye Bite. This is a single target debuff. It's guaranteed to hit unless I think they're immune to it, which I don't even remember that spell resistance is applicable here, but it could be. But the point is, there is no will save or anything like that. It literally works. It scales though, so if they're high level, then they're less impacted by the debuff. The lower they are, the more the debuff it lands. But it's guaranteed to be a debuff of some kind, like they're at least sick, sickened or nauseated or something like that at the highest level, like 10 HD and higher. The point is though, is it's a duration, like a 1 round per level. And you can switch targets. So it's kind of like a, you're sick, and then after he gets close to dying, I still have duration on the buff. I'll switch it to your friend. No, you're sick, you son of a bitch. And that's what Eye Bite is. So it's kind of cool. It's kind of like the Stank Eye, which is what I think of it as. From there, Summon Monster 6, of course. Would definitely pick it if I were going that route. Undeath to Death appears here now as well. Teammate friendly, supposedly. But again, I have an undead army with me, and I'm just kind of leery of testing it out. But it says it's teammate friendly. But it really, really puts a weapon on the undead. Tar Pool is here. It's basically the bigger version of Obsidian Flow on crack, but more of the same. And again, you should be immune to the slow effects of Tar Pool. Haven't tested it, but you should be, just like you are for Obsidian Flow. Again, don't cast it at your feet because you will literally get burned. Cast it just outside of your range, your teammate's range. Initially it'll burn, and then after that it slows them down and they slip and slide and they fall down and they get kind of grappled by the tar because they're sticking to it. You shouldn't have any of those problems after you cast it because of your wings. So those are my picks for the possible other choices that we didn't take. Notice for our skills, we maxed out Persuasion, which will be important as you'll see here in a moment. We maxed out Perception too, because even if you don't go solo all the time, you always want your teammates to have Perception, even you. You're the face of the team, being the high charisma character that you are, and if you are going solo, and even if you aren't, a lot of times there's persuasion checks, and it's really falls to you as the team leader. So why not be the guy that does that? So that's pretty cool. We started off with our strength at 14, dex of 13, con of 10, intelligence of 14, wisdom of 10, and charisma of 18. 2 into strength, 1 into dex, 2 into charisma by the time we got to level 20. Why did I get so many into dex and intelligence? As a tiefling, a pure tiefling, that's the bonuses that we get. If you go to here, you'll literally see it. Plus 2 to dex, plus 2 intelligence, minus 2 to the charisma. But, keep reading. You do not suffer a penalty to charisma if you have levels in either Sorcerer or Eldritch Scion of the Abyssal or Infernal Bloodline. This is the only tiefling that had the Abyssal in the category. There's another one that has the Infernal category, like this. So it's a +2 to 2 stats, Dex and Intelligence, which I don't particularly care about, but no penalty to charisma. So it's a +2 and a +2. How can I pass that shit up? So I said, fuck it, I'll take it. And it fit thematically, because they told you to. Why they didn't say a strength and intelligence bonus, or strength and charisma bonus, whatever, I don't know. But Abyssal would have done a lot better knowing that they had more strength, in my opinion. But it's fine. They probably didn't want you to be way too OP, because I have a +8 to strength versus +6 is pretty ridiculous. You notice that we did get a pretty decent strength, though, as you can see. It looks like it's buffed, but it's always there, and that's the inherent +6. And we get that as we level up. So let's actually look at that shit. So again, this is the one that literally levels you up here. Once you finally get to level 9, you get a +2. And then at 13 and 17, you get another +2 each time. So that's here, here, and then eventually here. So +2, +4, +6 to your strength. So that steadily levels you up. Until that time, you have beautiful bull strength for free at level, was it 5? So the ability to buff yourself and, of course, teammates, short term anyway, using that. So that's not bad. Notice that we get some resistances to electricity. 5, which you already had for being a tiefling, which we'll talk about that here in a second. But eventually it goes to 10, and that's again at level 9 right here. That's also when we get another +2 to our fortitude saves against poison. So +2 here, +4 there, eventually immunity to electricity and poison, and a 10 DR for acid, cold, and fire. We already had 5 from electric, cold, and fire for being a tiefling, though at level 1. They don't stack, they just get better. So whichever the highest one is, whichever the highest one is the one you get. Notice that we have claws, which I never use. We do get this. This is the resistance I talked about for any summonings, and this is the extra summon. You get 1 more added to the total number of creatures summoned, but again, only if it conjures more than 1 creature, and capable of conjuring more than 1 creature. Let's be clear on this. So the one that does 1 to 3, yes, they could roll a 1. You would still get 2, from what I understand. So the minimum is always 2. The maximum then for that guy would be 4. So it'd be 1d3 plus 1 is the way to think about it. The one that only ever summons 1, like the summon elemental, or the best quote-unquote version of your summons, you're never going to get 2. You're just going to get the 1. They will at least get the protection. And there is 2 feats that you could pick up that kind of help that out. It's kind of weird to build for that. I'm not going to say not to. I'm not going to do it. And those feats are, you get spell focus conjuring, and then you get from spell focus conjuring that unlocks augmented summoning. That gives anything you summon a +4 to strength and +4 to con. That's not bad. Better strength, more hits, more damage. Better con, more HP. Better fortitude saves if that's a thing for them. I can't justify it. If you're going to be a summoner type, though, that's something to look into. And the spell focus conjuring is not a horrible pick. It's higher DCs for those conjuration spells. That includes things I think like grease, web, and shit like that, but not necessarily everything you want. But again, it's not a waste. It's just hard to pick for something that you only unlock at level 19 and 20. So up to you. Notice at 20, of course, we get our true Magus. This is where we get like a toggle that allows it to either be a +2 to our swing, a +2 to our DC checks, or a +2 to our spell penetration checks. And those stack with spell penetration and greater spell penetration, which means you could have actually a +6 to your spell penetration with that toggle on and those 2 feats. So that's on you. I didn't pick them, but it's there. I like the +2 to my swing, quite frankly, and who wouldn't? You're a Magus, for fuck's sake. You're here to swing and hit shit. But up to you. We picked a variety of feats. Let's actually take a look at that now. So our feats, actually first, my skills weren't quite finished. Maxed out those 2, just a little bit, and use magic device to unlock it. A couple points here. 1 point in knowledge world. You have skill in this one. You also have skill in knowledge arcana. I couldn't afford to put them in both and athletics besides, because we have skill in that as well, thanks to the Abyssal Bloodline. So I did half in athletics, half in arcana, and called it good. The penalty is, of course, because of our armor. It's at -5, so that's why it's not 15 like you expect it to be. And only 1 point in here just to unlock it, because you have to be trained. As you see here, trained only means you have to at least put 1 point in it to quote-unquote be able to use it. It sucks at +6, but I did it because what the hell. And then I even threw 1 into trickery just to be a dickhead. But you probably wouldn't ever be a trickery character. It's why this one is not great for soloing, because you have all that stuff that you can't pick. Those traps that you can't disable and get free XP from. So 1 point's not enough. 2 points even isn't enough, and it's not a skill that we're trained in. So unless you're going to try to put some serious points into here, it's kind of a waste. But let's get into the actual feats now. First, let's go down this side because it's a little bit weirder than the stuff that's over here. Notice that we get, again, as a tiefling, a pure tiefling, you get a free spell for any kind of tiefling heritage. For the tiefling, straight negative, just a blank generic tiefling heritage, they give you this free spell. Resist energy, basically 1 casting per day, and you can use any of these 5. Up to you. Why they keep them all separate like this instead of just making it like a typical spell where you have a button that you click and then decide what element to resist, I don't know, but you have 5 in your abilities tree or tray. That really just kind of annoying. So I just usually drag 1 to my tray, call it good, and say, oh yeah, I remember I can buff myself for any of them. You notice that we got extended magic and maximized magic. Now normally I would not get this one. I would get prescient attack, which we did do, and I would also get the dimensional strike one, the one that ignores their armor. So just so we're clear on that. And then from there, other things you mentioned on this list would be things like, I got, of course, Ghost Touch, which, and Drink Blade, as soon as available, Ghost Touch weapon, which gave us Ghost Touch as well as Brilliant Energy, really good buffs to your weapon. Notice that we have Claws, which I never use, Wings that we got for free, and that's at like 15, I want to say. Bane, as soon as possible, grab that bad boy, that one's awesome. If you don't get that, I don't know what the hell to talk to you about. Other than that, I know there's more to talk about. Of course, your class skill athletics that you get for free for being in the Abyssal Bloodline, so that's why you have a check mark next to your athletics skill, so it's easier to level it up. You get more bang for your buck, I suppose. Our demon resistances, again, remember we get to be immune to electricity and poison by the level 20. Free spells and blah blah blah, but from here, the one thing I do want to show you was, fighter training. Don't forget that we didn't use this to our advantage, but you could. At level 10, you basically become half of your Magus level gets treated as fighter levels for purposes of purchasing feats. We didn't invest in that, but you'll see when you get to like a level 11, when you can finally use it, you'll see all kinds of feats are recommended, like weapon specialization. It's a +2 to damage. I really don't need more damage. 22 and 24 is pretty fucking close. But they will taunt you with that shit, so don't fall into those traps. If you're going for that shit, feel free to take it. I'm not saying it's bad, it's just we have other things we can do. Other than that, remember you don't get these spells with level 7 stuff. We don't get the Unholy Aura, and we don't get the Summon Monster 9 spell, because those are 7, 8, 9 spells that we would get for free if we were a sorcerer. So we don't get those. They just have them in the list. They never deleted them. But that's it. From there, for our actual feats, as we leveled up, we started off with Dodge. We get, of course, weapon proficiency for martial weapons and simple, light armor for free, and we can cast in any armor that we can wear. So as long as you don't invest in any of those feats, they just come naturally. So we get light, then medium, and then heavy, and no casting problems or penalties at all, which is awesome. So we start with Dodge. We only get 1 feat because we're not human, so that's our limited pick. The next one we get was the Weapon Focused Glaive. Again, whichever weapon you pick, go with it. But again, I would highly suggest two-handed because of the damage we do. Power attack, and this is why we want two-handed. Notice a lot of people miss this out. When you're using a power attack, if you're using a two-handed weapon, you do instead of a +2 to your damage, you're doing a +3 now, 50% more. So at a -4 penalty at level 20, we normally get a +8 to our damage. We're actually getting a +12 to our damage because we're using power attack and a two-handed weapon. That's pretty tits. We also get more damage because of our attack. It's based on strength. With a two-handed weapon, the damage goes up. Instead of it being 1.5 damage, instead of being normal damage, it's like 1.5 damage, so a +6 turns into like a +9 or some shit. So we really do really good damage because of our high strength and our power attack. So that comes in super handy. And power attack's going to be needed for some other stuff. Dazzling displays will be needed as well. This is a clickable ability. You will never click it except for early on, because later on this will just automatically activate. But this is the one where you basically raise your hand up in the air and you basically fart a big cloud in a circle around you, and everybody gets, oh my god, intimidated by your effects. This is why it's a persuasion check. It's why our persuasion has to be so goddamn high. But since we're charisma, and of course we can use our strength, as you'll see in a minute, our intimidation skills are maze balls. More armor, yes. Cornigan Smash is the reason for some of this shit. So literally, anytime you attack with power attack, you intimidate or you attempt to intimidate your opponent. So every time you hit an opponent while power attack is on, which will be always, you're going to try to basically scare the shit out of them, which is fun. And our intimidate, again, is going to be amazing. Shatter defenses will be nice, because as we basically intimidate these guys, we basically are shaking or frightening or panicking these guys. I can't remember which, but something like that is basically happening as we intimidate them. Then, after you do that, every attack after that, they're basically considered flat-footed, which is one of our 2 ways to be always doing sneak attack damage when we have that spell Sense Vitals up. Then, we went into the cleave tree. So cleave, cleaving finish, great cleave, and improved cleaving finish allows us eventually, without activating cleave, because it's a clickable as well, without activating cleave, if we kill somebody, basically what this does means is that what this one does is we basically kill a target, and then we turn our attention to the next target within range. That's why we needed this 6-foot-long pole, the glaive. So that's why I wanted any kind of 6-foot-long 2-handed weapon. You hit one, and then if someone's within your 6-foot range, you hit another guy, or try to. And if you kill him, thanks to this one, we can keep on doing it. So basically, I kill this guy, and then I kill that guy, and then I kill that guy, all in one combat round, all in one attack. And that's awesome. And then there's a cheat for this, which we'll show you that in a minute. Notice Dreadful Carnage. Whenever you reduce an enemy to 0, you make a persuasion to intimidate check to demoralize all enemies now within 30 feet. So again, it's just like your dazzling display every time you kill somebody. Just poof, firing off, poof, firing off, poof, firing off. And we're going to kill guys so much, especially the early, easy to kill dudes, that you're going to be spamming basically intimidate checks. It's just going to be retarded. Intimidating prowess and persuasive, these are basically buffs for your intimidate checks. In this case, it literally takes your strength modifier, adds it to your charisma modifier, and both of those are now stacked and added to your persuasion skill for purposes of intimidate checks. So we have a plus 11 to that skill because of this, instead of plus 5. And again, as we increase our charisma and our strength with gear and powers and spells and whatever else, that will go up higher and higher and higher. Thank you. And persuasive is the one that gives you just straight up bonus to persuasion flat and perception flat, plus 2. If you have at least 10 points in each of those, or any of those, they go from a plus 2 to a plus 4, and we do have more than 10 in each of those. We actually have 20 in each of those. So when we get this bad boy, that's another plus 4 to your perception checks and another plus 4 to your persuasion checks, which includes, of course, your intimidate checks. So we're really intimidating at a fucking retardedly high level. And then you start getting some of that magic gear that buffs your charisma and your strength, and it's pretty much game over for these guys. So let's actually get into some actual fun though now. So a couple tricks we can show you while we get into this will be basically what finishes off this video. A trick that you can do. First, let's just show you the general attack. These guys are a little tougher because I've been fighting down the level to get some decent gear, but I will buff up. So the typical way for me buffing up, I make sure that I don't have my Metamagic rods on. So we have Lesser Maximize. Didn't buy another one today. No, I just want to make sure. Lesser Maximize and Lesser Extend. And then, of course, I have Extended Magic and Maximize Magic. And they behave in the same general manner. You activate them. The only downside of these is you have to click these, whereas these ones you can toggle. See the little arrow, the green circling around? That means it's on. So as soon as you can extend something, it uses it. Same with this one. As soon as it has a chance to be a maximized spell, it will just do it, which is really, really nice because it just is kind of like set and forget. These ones you have to click them each individual time, and it's kind of fiddly because it has to activate and then you cast your spell, and then sometimes there's too much of a delay that you don't want to do that. So that's why I kind of like the rods.
We do it my way.
First, let's buff, and the way I buff normally is I like my light spell on me, shield spell on me, running faster, expeditious retreat, and then if I'm really feeling ballsy, I'll go for like air image. Really, really nice buff. If I go crazy, I'll do blur or displacement. And again, all these so far are 20-minute buffs, 1 minute per caster level. So we're doing pretty goddamn good for ourselves. I didn't extend any of them because 20 minutes is a lot of time. I could, but I don't have to. The ones I usually save the extends for are for things that are like 1 round per caster level, like our Sense Vitals, for haste, for displacement, stuff like that. I can do bull strength, by the way, still. I don't have any strength buffs of any real kind. So you see I just put my strength up 4 points more to a nice 26. So even more damage with my weapon and more chance to hit with my weapon. So we gotta love all that. Now of course that would be overridden by like belts, so it's kind of a waste later on, but until that time, we can benefit from it.
I'm superior.
Because you do AoE attacks, you want to round them all up in a circle around you, because when you kill one guy, you start swinging on the next one. So you damage the two of them. That's why we do that stuff. The big fart explosions, that's basically your intimidation. Dazzling display check going off. In case I haven't mentioned it, kudos and thank you to Carnage, who does an excellent channel. He does Twitch streaming as well as YouTube videos. He used this, and this is how I got the idea. It was from him. I don't know if he did it or his community, his Twitch channel gave him the idea. But anyway, in his second playthrough of this game, he uses this Dreadful Carnage ability. He used it not on his main, he used it on the shield defender, the woman, Valerie, whatever the hell her name is. And she has like a charisma like 13 or 15 or something like that. She has a decent strength besides. It's just not amazing. Mine's amazing. So while she did good, and you watch his videos, you'll see that she really owns it. She controls quite a bit of the battlefield thanks to this trick. I will destroy shit using our character because we have more strength and more charisma and more persuasion than she ever will. And we just crush stuff with our buffs as well. So you will see that she's basically a badass, and if she's a badass, then you better know that I'm going to just destroy some guys.
Waste of my time. I won't be home.
Nothing in here. Didn't get the perception check apparently. Oops. Alright, got it. Thank you. Alright, so now we've done that just to show you what the general attack looks like. Let's show you what other things we can do. There's our dire wolves. So remember our melee touch attacks that we channel through our weapon? You have to have both of these on to do this properly, right? We cast the spell, it goes into your weapon, then you swing. Normally, if you're one-handed, this is why we suck. Normally, if you're one-handed, what will happen is you cast a spell, channel it into your weapon, and then you'll attack, and assuming it hits, it'll discharge the spell. And then you'll continue to attack, assuming you have more attacks in that combat round. We will not get that benefit. What happens to us is we will cast the spell, cast it into our weapon, go two-handed, swing once. That's our combat turn now. That's why this is actually a bad idea. However, there is a trick. So one of the tricks is this. Go maximize on a Metamagic rod, in this case lesser. We're going to cast a spell that's level 1, 2, or 3. In this case, Vampiric Touch will autopilot. And when we get this AoE effect on these guys, if we were to kill one, you'll see that we'll do the cleaving finish on another guy near us, right? So let's see if it works like it should. So we managed to take him out. It didn't give us a chance, though, to wound the other guys, which is kind of a bum. I'll shut this back off so we don't waste it. Same with that. Notice, though, that we maximized it and got the full 60 extra HP. And, of course, did 60 unholy damage to them. If it would have been a straight-up kill because of this, we would have done a finishing blow on the next guy, and possibly the next guy, and possibly the next guy. And the reason that's important is you would have seen the unholy damage roll multiple times in one combat round from just one casting of this spell. That's why this is cool. It's not going to be as amazing late game because they have so many HP that you're not doing the finishing cleave like you should be. But early level stuff, you're just marshalling through these son of a bitches. So I almost want to do the finishing cleave feats first and then do the Cornigan smash stuff, but I know that's just silly. But the point is you could, and you could really own some shit with this, and it works on all these touch attacks. So Shocking Grasp will fire off multiple times, Frigid Touch would, so Vampiric Touch, as you'll see. We could have done, I didn't do it, but you could have done Touch of Fatigue even, and that makes this suddenly useful again. Touch of Fatigue by and large is just crap. It's an autopilot move that you do for a Magus. You never run out of it. It does a fatigue effect on them if it hits, and they can save, I think, out of it too. But if it's one of those where I could hit multiple guys with it, and therefore fatigue a group of dudes, hell yeah, and all of a sudden that becomes cool again. So that's the thing. So these guys are going to be too tough. We get into a pack of rooms where it's just straight up wolves instead of dire wolves. I'll show you the trick where it fires off on multiple dudes. Just because these guys aren't dying to it. That's really why the trick's not working. If they were weaker,
my way,
then it would actually work. Because I guarantee it's not dire wolves in every damn room.
none shall escape.
Were rat, wolf, wolf, wolf. Okay, this is a pretty good chance for it to work. Okay, so let's do this. We have a Metamagic Rod on, extend, or sorry, maximize. Metamagic Rod on. I'm going to autopilot that. I don't have to. I could literally just do this. Attack the wolf, because remember, because I have these on, it knows that I want to cast it through my weapon and attack with my weapon. Because this is on, it'll maximize it, so I'll get the 60 unholy damage. So here we go. Nice, and you see how you got more than 160? That's why you got more than 160, because I did the cleaving finish, whatever, yeah, the cleaving finish move on more than one wolf. So you shut that back off, and let's look at this real quick so you can see what we just did there. Okay. So vampiric touch, we attack the guy, 32 slashing damage, intimidate check, cleaving finish because we know we killed the wolf, 29 damage of slashing to the next wolf that we swing at because we did hit him. That's the next full attack because of the cleaving finish. So that's 29, again a different roll, so different damage numbers are to be expected. You would have the same for the unholy damage if it weren't for the fact we maximize it. So it's just easier to pick out at the map. So we literally were able to hit 3 wolves with one swing. See what happened there? So we got one, killed him, swung in another one, killed him, swung in another one and killed him. But notice how, again, it fires off the unholy 60 3 separate times. And again, 3 separate wolves. And it's because of that improved cleaving fit. So that's really extra damage just coming your way. It just looks really, really nice. So when you can get it to fire off like that, it's really impressive. And again, doesn't have to be maximized. It's just easier to show. To me, though, it's like a spell that's wasted if it just fires off. Like if you're swinging it at like a kobold and you're using your massive vampiric touch to go through your weapon and you hit him, the weapon attack would probably been enough to kill him. So the vampiric touch was kind of a waste. But then to know that it will actually fire off on the next guy I'm swinging on, you see where I like this? That's why this one's kind of cool. I don't know that it's a glitch per se, but it's one of those things that could get patched out, so you can enjoy it while you have it. Other things to think about is we have multiple ways to do sneak attack. So again, we have to buff up for the sneak attack first. So let's do that. So here's our Sense Vitals. It only lasts for 2 minutes at level 20. If I did extend Metamagic Rod or extended magic, I could have doubled the duration to 4 minutes, so that's the thing.
I lead, you follow. I am superior!
So now, remember, I'm not on a team. I'm running solo, but I have sneak attack potential. How do I do that? So one easy way is to just deny them their dexterity bonus, which is prescient attack. If I activate this, then they're considered flat-footed, and you'll see sneak attacks for 1 combat round. Sneak attack, freaking circle. I was even able to kill the goddamn swarm there, guys, with the AoE damage. That's pretty badass.
Over there!
Okay. And then from there, all their sneak attacks, remember, if you intimidate them, you scare them, in effect, then the follow-up attack, thanks to Shatter Defenses, makes them flat-footed for the next combat round that you attack them. So you attack him once, if he doesn't die and he's scared from you because of the intimidate check that he failed, which he probably will fail, then you should be able to, on a subsequent attack, be doing sneak attack damage, is my point. So again, 2 ways at least right there to do sneak attack damage solo.
I just can't. Head on!
Nature sucks. And then from there, remember you can stand in your poison clouds, because you're now immune to them, but earlier you could have been resistant, so examples of that would have been Stinky Cloud, like so. And you're immune to this effect. It may even show that you're doing saving throw checks, so it doesn't matter. Even if you fail, you don't. But they're all suffering from it, and you basically are benefiting from the fact that they're suffering from it. And completely immune to the effects while you're in the cloud. You can do the same with Cloud Kill. So that's the thing.
Pay attention.
Oops. I was paying attention. Don't you yell at me. Other tricks.
We do it my way.
Let's look at our spells. Let's show you the grease spell that you can stand in and not be affected by in one way, shape, or form. again, presumably because of your wings. Doesn't even do a check. I don't even know why that's a thing, but I'm not going to complain about it. Web spell same way, but it will do the check. But even if you fail it, you're not slowed.
I won't be halted.
Okay.
None shall escape.
We got a bear, and a giant poisonous frog. I don't think the poison's going to do you any good, buddy. Alright, so here's our grease spell. Again, normally you would cast it like this, just in front of your feet. Now, you just fuck it, cast it right at her. We're immune to the effect.
Yes.
Watch them slippy slide over the place while we kick their ass. Oh, more damage. What are you doing hiding over there? Bastard. So that works. Again, we have the ability to continually skitter over that thanks to, I'm assuming, again, our wings. We have other stuff, though. Let's do the web spell now. Bigger AoE effect. So that's this one here. And again, we can stand in, it doesn't matter. Not teammate friendly, of course, but poof, lock it up. And now you'll see we are doing checks in here against it. So saving throw, reflex saving throw, succeeded or failed, it doesn't matter. Even if we fail, we're still going to be stepped up. And I don't know why it keeps doing the checks when it's underneath it, because it doesn't for the grease, but it does for the web spell. It doesn't seem to matter. But it slows them down, locks them up. That's all good things because it helps you across the battlefield, right? So that's just fun. Again, we can do the same with Obsidian Flow, but it does fire damage initially, so that one you don't want to be standing in. If you took Tar Pool, which I did not take, but if you did, which you're welcome to do at level 19, you can benefit from that in the same general principle, I assume. I never tried it. I just know that it basically is Obsidian Flow, which is level 4. It's basically like this one, but better. So I assume if Obsidian Flow you're immune to the slowing effects, then in Tar Pool you'd also be immune to its effects.
Got it.
Let's see, what else to tell you? What else to tell you? I know this video is getting long, guys. There's just so much fun here that I just definitely like this build. Again, it's not solo, just to reinforce that. It's not something you're going to take solo through the whole goddamn game, but you can solo quite a bit. Let's round everybody up, and we'll do Obsidian Flow.
Pay attention. Over there.
Okay. Obsidian Flow, again, is the one that does fire damage, and again, unless you're immune to the fire damage, we could have that. You know, if we had cast this on us beforehand, we would have been immune to the amount of fire damage, so we could cast it at our feet. But if you're not, and you're not immune, and you don't want to take anywhere from 10 to 60 points of damage, you probably want to do it like this. Just outside your range. Initial spike. And we're swinging and we're swinging and we're swinging, baby. And then after that, you can feel free to run all the way through this shit. Normally this would slow you down. Not one little bit of slow. We're just zipping all over the damn place. So again, it's considered a ground-based effect, I assume. Note, I didn't mention this earlier, but note that pits are not ground-based effects. You can fall into your pit spell. So that's an annoying little feature. I can't explain it, but for whatever reason they decided. And pits did come later, the spells came later, so maybe they just forgot to code that shit in there. But you are not immune to the pits by having wings. You will literally fall in your own damn pits. And that's no bueno. So be warned.
Pay attention.
Other than that, other stuff.
Onwards.
I know there's more. I just need to look at your spells. Let's see. 1, 2. Covered all that. Sense vitals, you know when to use that. And of course, extended at all opportunities because it won't last long. Haste is amazing for that extra attack around, of course. Extra dodge besides. Displacement, 50% chance to miss me. Oh, let's get into the transformations. First, let's summon pets. On the next room, we'll take out the animate dead. I'll show you these doofuses. Both these guys. And remember, we get an extra 1 guaranteed because there's always at least a chance for more than 1 to be summoned. So now we get an extra 1 besides that, so they're a higher number, and they're resistant. And they just start attacking. That's just
Out of my way!
okay, so now you see that he summoned his own lepers. This is where I can use my dismissal power and just say, hey, you go away. Now, of course, it's probably baskets, but whatever. The point is, you have friends to take an alpha strike, just send it to the fodder, or distract the bad guy, die, give work a little bit, whatever you need to do. But the point is, we're doing pretty good steady 8 damage for these guys. Even the robots, these guys suck. Oh, that was the main boss fight. That's what that is. Hey, buddy. Alright, this is where we turn on Bane, Enduring Blade, activate this, so that our weapon is baller. Thanks, bro. Hate you. Okay. This is the one where it literally tells you that you've completed the main boss of blah blah blah, whatever. That's why she was so goddamn hard. The honest guy has new goods. We got all kinds of flipping gear here too. And a glaive +3. Oh my god, what am I doing? You dumbass. You could be rocking that. And this is where we have Owlbear Skin Boots, meaning the slowing and paralyzing effects and taming in difficult terrain. Now again, I think this is better than your wings. So until you get the wings, and like stuff like this would actually have suited you well. But you see the difficult terrain, that's the thing. But the wings also give us a dodge bonus to our armor in melee. So there's a reason for it. And we have belts of strength and dexterity and strength. I'll take more strength. Or actually, I'll take more dexterity. We already have bull strength on us. When that wears off, then the strength belt would actually be useful. We don't need hide armor. Necklace of Eternal Hunter. Yeah, I'll take that. Better chance to hit. I even have a Ring of Protection +2 versus the Luck Ring. I'll take that. So for Deflection Armor class. That's already something we have. We don't need another wand. Okay. So let's bounce out of here. Let's transform into the elemental one, and I'm just going to change into the earth one. There's a couple reasons I want to do this. One, to show you that you have different buffs. The other is to show you that feats like your Cornigan Smash and all that shit are still applicable here. Yes, you don't have weapons. You use whatever weapon they give you, which I think is an unarmed strike. It might not even be called an unarmed strike. It's just a melee bludgeoning the shit out of them. But you can change into any of these. And again, if you hover over them, you see which each one gives you. So dexterity bonus for the air. Pretty nice one. Some natural armor bonus. Electricity resistance. Vulnerability to acid. Movement is increased to 30, but that if we already have Expeditions Retreat on, I don't think they stack. And then of course you have that whirlwind attack that you gain, which I never use, but that's the thing. Earth, fire, and water have different things, of course, as well. Fire is another one for dex. But yeah, extra fire damage with your attacks because you're a fire elemental, obviously. Earth, though, is the nice one because it gives you the strength. Mute myself there because I sniffed it. This is our earth elemental, normal human size, so nothing better for your chance to hit or worse for your chance to hit. It does increase our strength. Notice it stacks with bull strength as well as our inherent strength because it's a polymorph spell. Same with dragon. Dragon would be strength and con, and those would be polymorph versions. So they would stack with your belts of enhancements or any spells that you cast on you, like bull strength, bear's endurance, shit like that. And our inherent is a completely separate category. One more category besides that, if you went crazy and dipped out of Magus, which I'm not saying you do it, but if you did, and went say Vivisectionist, those mutagens are another separate category for strength, con, intelligence, wisdom, whatever one you're using. So those mutagens or cognigens can actually extra stack. So you can get some retarded strength on some characters sometimes. But I want to show you the Cardigan Smash move and all that shit still works. You see, we shaded out all our spells. We can't cast our spells. We have all this shit still going for us. We can still flame our weapon on or turn it Bane or whatever. It's a different kind of weapon than the glaive we've been using, by the way. So if we wanted to buff up, we could do like this. Activate it. And you see, we're still getting the explosion attached shit now. Finishing critical, all that shit's still applicable. But he killed me. But yeah, that's basically the gist of the build. And I wasn't really paying attention to why we died. But the point is you really can pre-buff up. You can turn into a variety of things. Know which ones you can cast spells in. Like the dragon forms, you can cast spells still. If you use any of the elemental forms, you can't. If you turn into the transformation, where you turn into the fighter equivalent, you can't cast spells. But you can pre-buff up first, then transform, and then you're still buffed. So know that. But with that, that covers really everything I wanted to show you here for this strength-based Abyssal build. With that, my name is Brothermutant. Please like, subscribe, comment down below. Tell me what you guys think. The next one will be the Undead, and again, it will also probably be a strength-based build. I'll build it in a different way, though, so it's not more of the same, just so you can see that there's other options out there. But I got a feeling for Undead, I also probably want that to be a strength-based build as well. With that, though, I'll see you guys soon. Bye now.